Entrepreneurs are the people that are making the world better because they're having to be better to get that business. And everything is entrepreneurship. But when you're not in that, you're taught that, man, entrepreneurs are bad. Entrepreneurs are greedy. Entrepreneurs, all they care about money. Rich people only care about money. The only people that say rich people care about money are poor people. One of the things that I struggled with the most, and this is just for me, limiting beliefs. I had a lot of limiting beliefs on how successful I can be, and my effort was directly connected to my belief system.
Sold out service, and you know we've been working. We serving, we earning. The watches, it's hurting. Big heart, but it started with Chris. Seen a lot when it comes to this biz. Don't serve, don't earn. They gotta shift keys to be a capitalist.
Chris Hart here, guys. Sold out server here. Chris Hart, guys. Thank you for coming out today to this meeting that we're having here in Calverton, Maryland, guys, and full of a room full of entrepreneurs, guys. Give them some love to the entrepreneurs here, guys. Give them some love. Guys, today we are excited to extend our entrepreneurship series, guys, with a guy named Jorge Pelayo. George is somebody I've known for almost a decade now, and we both came up in the insurance industry. He's an uber successful entrepreneur, seven-figure earner at our firm here at PHP Agency. And today we'll be discovering who is Jorge Pelayo, what makes a successful entrepreneur in America today, and really just discovering him in the mindset of somebody who's a seven-figure earner in America today, in a day and time where we're struggling financially. Inflation's at an all-time high. People are looking for work, and there's war in Eastern Europe. How do we find hope in a day and time where people are struggling and looking for hope? So, guys, George, man, how you doing?
Good to be here.
Absolutely.
Good to be on your channel.
Absolutely.
It's blowing up nonstop.
Yeah, we're trying to.
And great to be with your team. We had a great session in the morning, so I'm excited for the interview and to give as much value as I can.
Absolutely. So I want to kick it off, George. My go-to question, man, opening up anything here is, who were you in high school, man? Who was Jorge Pelayo back in high school? I mean, were you the cool kid, the jock, star football player, starting quarterback? Who were you?
I was a kid trying to fit in. Didn't grow up. Mom and dad were great parents, both working all the time. Grew up with a sister. She was doing her thing. I love her. But kind of grew up by myself, trying to figure out where do I fit in? Who do I need to be just to be accepted? So I think going into high school was a super anxious thing. I was not the cool kid or the popular kid. I was kind of the chunky, somewhat maybe smart kid, but not too smart. Trying to figure out. I was very average, super average. And then from there, I tried to fit in. I was doing really, really good till I got to high school, got a chance to meet the wrong people, was influenced by them. It's not their fault, it's my fault, but I still was influenced by the wrong people, made a bunch of mistakes, got into a couple fights, almost got kicked out.
So you were a fighter?
I was not a fighter at all. I was like one of these guys. I was like Kevin Hart, definitely not a fighter. We all think we're better than we are, right? You know, you do shadow boxing, like, I think I could do it. Then you get in a fight, you're like, I don't know how to do this, you know. But no, I was trying to fit in. I was trying to be somebody I wasn't. High school was not a good time for me, man. I hated high school, to be honest. Very uncomfortable, socially awkward. But I was able to adapt and fit in and find a couple good guys that we kind of shared the same values. Yeah. Towards the end of high school, I stopped trying to be like other people. I stopped trying to fit in, and I just found people that I was comfortable with, and then I think things started to become a little bit more comfortable, and worked on improving my grades before we graduated, but was able to personality at that moment was able to get me, even though I had half of 60 absences in first period, I still got an A. So it was 60 absences in first period, and I still got an A. It was my philosophy class. But that was also not a good thing. Yeah. Because it taught me, leaving that high school, that I could get by in the real world without really committing myself, and that my talent was enough. And then you graduate high school, in school, where you go from getting the information first and then getting the test, and then you go into real life where you get the test first and the lesson after. So that's why I struggled so long in business, because I didn't have a good foundation in high school.
Now, after high school, did you go to college, UCLA, USC, any four universities locally in SoCal? Were you out of state? Where'd you go next?
Yeah, I went to a very high-end community college called Antelope Valley Community College, and in Palmdale, California, Lancaster, California. Man, I just went there because I didn't know what was my next. I was kind of waiting to find my next, and I'm like, let me at least go to school and learn something and maybe get a degree. while I'm learning to do sales. My neighbor was making 30 grand a month doing real estate, so I get my real estate license. I'm working at the restaurant, going to college, and doing real estate. And while I saw a lot of people making money in real estate, I couldn't find a mentor or a coach, and that's when a friend of mine introduced me to insurance. I said, I'm not interested, no thank you. And then he kept inviting me, thank God, and when I went, I met Patrick. Patrick was 26, Patrick Bay David, the CEO of PHP Agency. And I met Patrick, and that was the first time I was really inspired as a person to really become the best version of George. Not just to make money, not just to find a job, not just to get by, but really to become the best version of me, to commit to excellence, to like change as an entrepreneur. And I was inspired, and as much as I was around other people in real estate that were making money, there's a difference in somebody that's making money and somebody that wants to actually mentor you and coach you and help you. And Patrick, there was a sincere desire to help people win in life and become their best version. So immediately it wasn't even about being around guys that were millionaires. It was about being around guys that wanted to develop me in a long-term industry too, which we can talk more about. But real estate is every month you start back over at zero. You're chasing a check. At the end of 30 years, you can't sell your business because there isn't a value. There's no residual. You can't pass it on to your kids. So I started getting the perspective of how powerful the insurance industry, and then made that transition over.
So around 19, you went into business with Patrick Bay David.
I did, yes.
So paint a picture of your first 3 years in business. We have a lot of guys and gals here who are entrepreneurs, and people watching on the channel here, they're in their first year, first 18 months, first 2 years, they're probably going through hell. Like, were your first 3 years like magic? You were a six-figure earner in the first 6 months, or were there some hiccups there along the way?
I saw people that were making 100, 250, 500,000 a year, $1 million a year, 400,000 a month in the insurance industry. So the moment I saw that, I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna do it. I was motivated, but I definitely wasn't disciplined. And I think that's the first kind of phase of an entrepreneur: high motivation, low discipline. And we're so used to having a job, being told what to do, so we think we're actually more disciplined, but really the reward punishment system of a job, like we'll reward you with a check, but we'll punish you by firing you. That reward punishment system, when you become an entrepreneur, now you have to develop your own reward punishment system because there's nobody else telling you what to do. So the punishment is that you go broke. And so I quit the job and I was like, I'm gonna be rich. I'm gonna make 100,000. The next year I made $8,000 in 1 year.
Wow.
So
just like me, my first year, I made $8,000.
Balling, right? And when you're making average 700 a month, you're like, what am I doing? Like, this isn't for me. Like, and you start like negative affirmations, like, man, I don't like this. Maybe I made the wrong decision. Maybe I should go back to my job. So failure is getting you to question and doubt yourself a lot. And most people fail that test. They fail that test and they go back to a job, which again, I'm not judging anybody, but for me, I knew if I went back to a job that I was going to establish a habit of quitting every time things got difficult. Wow. And I remember a quote, somebody said that quitting is a habit. So the more you do it, right, the bigger that muscle becomes. And then the next time things get difficult, you're going to quit that too. And so you're going to go through your life being a quitter. And that it's a cliche because they say, quitters never win and winners never quit. But that's really the truth. I just kept going. My second year, I made 16 grand. I'm starting to learn how to sell. I'm starting to learn how to set a schedule for myself. I'm learning how to be accountable to somebody. My ego was really high. So every time I'd get challenged, I took it personal. Some people as entrepreneurs, they don't have a mentor or coach. They're doing it independently. So they need to find a system of accountability. That's why I think our model is so special, because it allows you to be an entrepreneur while still having a coach and a mentor and a guide. Most entrepreneurs don't have that. It's books, it's conferences, it's YouTube today. But finding somebody to be accountable to is very important. Personal development is very important. We have a system where we come to classes every Tuesday and Saturday, so I kept showing up. But if I wasn't in this type of model as a realtor, there wasn't any classes. It was just being more of a salesperson than a real entrepreneur. There's a great book called The E-Myth, and it says that there's the entrepreneur, there is the manager, and there is the technician. And most people, when they go into entrepreneurship, they stay the technician, they just stay the salesperson, and they think they're really an entrepreneur. But until you start developing systems and people, you don't really have a business, you're just a salesperson. So Patrick said yesterday, we were in a meeting in Florida, and he says, you start off from W-2 to 1099. That's the hardest first transition. Yep. Then you go 1099 to salesperson, so you got to learn sales. Then you go from salesperson, like you're just an average person, to sales leader. So now you're dominating and you're selling. Then you got to go from sales leader, where most people stop, and go to sales manager, where you start transferring those skill sets into other people, right? So that you can replace yourself or compound your results. And then you go from sales leader to actual business owner.
Yeah.
And the last phase is business owner to CEO, where you start developing your sales managers, your business owners into other CEOs. But it was really difficult, man. And I finally made a decision. I'm going to go all in. I think the first 2 years, quitting was an option for me. And July of 2007, 2 years and 1 month into the business, I went to a meeting and Patrick talked about Tony Dungy, and he talked about the subject of playing hurt, that you need to really mentally be able to play hurt. And that's when I went on my run, and I said, I'm not going to look at any other options. I'm going to say no to everything. I'm not going back to a job. I'm not looking at another business. Once you say no to any other option, anything besides success, and failure is no longer an option, now you actually start committing to the things that you need to do. So I think it's super important to eliminate any other option besides success. And that we made 32 grand that year. Next year, 62, 113, and then we went 132. Thought it was going to last forever. It went back to 120, 170, 220, 303, 4, 620, 640, 705, 750, a million, 5. And this year we'll hopefully do 2.5.
Those are some nice raises every year. I don't know any jobs that give you a raise like that. Only entrepreneurship.
Only yourself.
Yeah, only yourself.
Yeah. Wow. By the way, you guys, I remember because we were just telling your story to promote the next event we have coming up. Yeah. There's a sales conference we do every year called Train the Trainers for agents and PHP, and you're trained by $250,000, $500,000, $2 million earners. And you told the story of you went from 60,000. This was in Tulum. We were in Tulum, right?
Yep.
You went from 60K to what? 2.7?
To 205.
205, and then you went from 205 to
250 and then the 417.
in like 6 months.
Yep.
Yeah, to go from 250,000 to 417,000.
Yeah.
What did you? I know I know you're interviewing me, but
that's
but
okay.
what did you do to go from 250 to 417?
It's crazy how I'm watching you talk about being in business as a business owner, right? You said going from W-2 to 1099 to a salesman to a sales leader to a sales manager, right?
Yep.
I think the biggest growth difference was from a sales leader to a sales manager, reproducing other leaders. Because I'm at 220 in income, and I'm working with guys who are working with me, and my top guy is making maybe 6 figures, right? And now, so I'm making money. I can make money, but I haven't yet really produced people that can make money like I can make money. You know, I don't have a sales system in place. As soon as I said, hey, let me start to reproduce sales leaders, and let me become a real business owner, and maybe start teaching people some skills that I have, transferring my skills to others through what we call duplication in our business, right? When I started to create duplication in my business, income doubled. Income doubled. Because my income wasn't based just off my efforts, but efforts of a large team working with me. And so I think the biggest jump for most people in this business, I think you're right, I think just in business in general, if you're in real estate, pharmaceutical sales, whatever you're doing, how do I become a better salesperson? That's the easy part. You're selling great, but how do you teach others to sell? That's the challenge. It takes patience, it takes time, it takes caring about other people, because you can go out there and make $250,000, $500,000 a year in real estate and other businesses by yourself.
Yep.
I met someone recently making over 7 figures in real estate, just by themselves.
Yep.
No team responsibility, no leadership, no development. Others just kind of go out there and do your own thing. But I think it's much more rewarding being able to help others and serve others in that process and help other people become free. Like Patrick helping you become free. I mean, you're a 19-year-old kid working at Red Lobster when Pat first met you.
Yeah.
And now to see where you're at in income is crazy.
Yeah, every time I see our guys, it's the first thing is like, can I be successful? And then once you do that, like once you make significant money, that's significant money is different at different levels. It may be 10 grand a month, 20 grand a month, 100 grand a month, whatever. But once you make significant money and you buy the house, you buy the car, you have the nice dinners, you know the boats, the things like that. Like at one point that becomes empty for at least for me. Yeah. And then you start to realize, man, what really matters? What is their actual purpose in? And it's difficult because you have to be willing to invest into somebody long enough to see them transform, and that's the annoying process. And it's so annoying, and you're just like, dude, screw it. I'm gonna go just focus on myself. And you give up on people. But what if somebody gave up on you? What if somebody did the same thing to you? So every time I lose patience, I go back to how patient was Patrick with you? Why aren't you giving that same opportunity? And Patrick asked a question. He says, if you were led by the way you lead, would you be successful? right? And I analyzed that, and I was like, man, I had a better example of a leader than I'm currently being to my guys. And if you were having dinner with John Maxwell last night, right? Which I'd love to hear how that was, okay? Because I didn't get a chance to. I was waiting for my invitation. I'm just joking. I'm just totally joking. I flew in late, but Maxwell talks about the law of the lid, right? So if you're led by a 9 and you're a 6 and you don't ever become a 9, you're always going to have your guys are going to be a 5, a 4, a 3. And people, this is a crazy part about entrepreneurship. People think that who they are in business is separate from who they are in life, and it's really the same. Right? So if you have a lid at a 4 or a 5 or a 6, now all of a sudden your wife or your husband, whoever you're leading, you can only lead them so much as well. Yep. And if you have kids, your kids are never going to be better than you most of the time, unless they get exposed to something that's better and bigger than you. Yep. So for me, I had to take it personal to also understand that this wasn't just a insurance thing or a business thing or a sales thing. It was going to be who I am in life thing. And so growing as a person, finding out your capacity, your breakthrough, this is so powerful, and I understand it more now than ever, that your breakthrough and your commitment is connected to somebody else's journey. So like if we don't become better, how do our guys become better? So they're kind of counting on us. Their kids, their grandkids are counting on us to be better leaders. Wow. When you take it personal and you see that, instead of just looking for money, you will emotionally get connected to, I think, developing people. But if it's about money, you just won't, because money's not going to motivate you to be patient with somebody.
I love it, man. George, I think our biggest lessons are in failures, right? And we're talking about success in business. And I've known you for 8 years now. You've been in the industry 15 plus years in the insurance industry, 16 years in this industry. Looking back the past 16 years, I've seen you in different seasons of success, right? What is your biggest lesson that we can learn from as entrepreneurs that you would say, hey, this is probably one of my, I'm sure you have many lessons in the past 16 years. What do you think is one of your biggest lessons we can learn from to maybe either avoid or to anticipate happening for us in our business?
It's so unique to each individual, but one of the things that I struggled with the most, and this is just for me, limiting beliefs. And so I had a lot of limiting beliefs on how successful I can be, and my effort was directly connected to my belief system. So we did an exercise the other day. This is probably not the other day, maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago now. I don't even remember when we were. We were in a meeting like this, and I was doing Fast Start School for the new agents. Yep. And I was teaching these new people how to go out there and connect and network with people, because you're literally taught, don't talk to strangers, and then you become an entrepreneur and you're like, go talk to strangers. And you're like, I don't want to talk to strangers. Right? Stranger danger, what if they tell me no, like it's weird how the things that how we're taught are completely opposite to success. Wow. And so I'm in this meeting with this group of entrepreneurs. None of them know how to prospect. So we haven't taught them like, hey, here's how you compliment, start a conversation. Here's the 4 questions. I literally said, here's what I'm going to do for you. You guys know that we help people, right? Yeah. You guys know that people need financial help, right? Yeah. Here's a $100 bill to the first person that just meets somebody outside and can bring me back a phone number. And I pull out a $100 bill and I say, go. And the doors open. Motivated. All these different people run. These are grown men and women. They don't even know how to prospect, but they run. And one of the ladies brings me back a phone number. And like, she was brand new. She had no idea. She's never been in sales. All she knew was, if I get a number, I'm going to make money. If I get a number, I'm going to make money. And so she comes back, she gives me the paper, and it has a number, and she didn't even get the person's name. Right? So I'm like, why did you do that? Why did you take action today? Because you knew that there was an immediate result. And that's why we go to a job, because we know there's immediate results. So as an entrepreneur, it's doing the things. I was in the restroom washing my hands. Who was in the restroom? A guy from Venezuela. He may be in the Fast Start School. Yeah, I think he's in the Fast Start School. And I said, hey, if I paid you $200 today for every person you went and talked to, every number you got, every phone number you got, would you go? How many people would you talk to today? He says 100. I said, so you'd get 100 numbers. You'd make 20 grand today. And I said, do you think if you got 100 numbers every day in this business, you'd make 20 grand? And he's like, of course I would. But the problem is, it's because it's not guaranteed. You know, so in a job, like, that's the first thing you have to learn as an entrepreneur, is that the activity does produce compensation. It's just a little bit delayed. And that's hard for people to do. And then the second thing is, I used to think people got lucky. Like I would look at people and I'm like, man, he's supposed to be successful. They're supposed to be successful.
Like predestined.
Yeah. I used to think that. Like, it's the stupidest thing to think, but I'm like, some people are just supposed to make it. Like, I was in sports, and I was never good at sports. And I never had anybody pull me aside and practice with me. So it sounds so dumb. Well, you would think, well, you should know to practice. Yeah, but I didn't believe that I can get a result. I didn't connect practice to progress. I didn't connect it because I didn't believe that was a system of repetition, that you could literally get better, and that you would your body would learn muscle memory, that your how do I say it? Your nerves, right, would get trained on how to fight. Like, you would train your brain to not be nervous anymore if you're a fighter, right? Like, I didn't understand that there was a process of success, and so the moment I was like, well, man, I hope I get lucky. I hope I get lucky. Versus saying, man, I'm really going to read 12 books on sales and I'm going to master sales. I'm really going to study for a month, an hour in the morning, hour at night prospecting, and I'm going to become the best prospector. Like, just knowing that if you're willing to prepare, right, proper preparation prevents poor performance. If you're willing to prepare in something and you're constant and you track your progress and you do it every single day and you just start to get a little bit better, it's not even if you're going to be successful, it's when. I wish I would have connected that sooner. I was trying to get lucky. Same thing in high school. Maybe I'm talented enough. Maybe I'm this enough. And I didn't. That's why I failed. And so I started actually doing the work, holding myself accountable, and improving in specific areas. Like, if you want to get better at sales, find the best salespeople. Take each one of them to lunch. Over the next 12 weeks, you'll be one of the top salespeople in that office. You know? Whatever skill set you want to get better at, somebody out there has a routine. And if you can learn their routine, and that produces consistent results, then you yourself can produce consistent results if you duplicate that routine. So knowing success is not luck, success is a system and new habits and routines.
Love it, man, I love it. George, I'm gonna switch things up a little bit more. I'm gonna go from a different topic, all right? So off entrepreneurship for a second, talk about world news, what's happening today in our world, right? So right now in Eastern Europe, there's a war taking place, Ukraine and Russia. We have a dictator named Putin who invaded a country. And their sovereignty. And what's your overall view right now on what's happening in Europe, what's happening with NATO, Ukraine, and what's your opinion on what America's role should be in that?
So if you would have asked me, like, I used to only know like MTV News, okay?
MTV
right?
News. Is that even around anymore?
No, I don't know. I have no idea. So the reason I say that is some people in here, like, you don't follow the news, you don't follow politics. Sapaula, we were with Sapaula yesterday in Fort Lauderdale, and Sapaula's like, if you would have told me 6 years ago about what's going on with the political system and inflation and government and this, he says, I would have been like, dude, I don't care about that. Like, it's not involved with me. But what you start to realize is, as you become more successful, you start to make a little bit more money, you start to understand the world and connect things, you really see how much of a need for leadership exists, and you start being affected by these things. You start being affected by taxes more. Like, we paid $100,000, over $100,000 in taxes. Like, when you got to cut a check for $100,000 and give your money to somebody, you start now caring about taxes. And you start realizing, like, why do I not have a say if I'm having to spend $100,000? Why am I not talking? Why doesn't the city official that's passing law have a conversation with me? Am I working for the government, or is the government for me? And I think today, the issue that I have is that there's so many things that are going on, like in LA. I live in LA for now. We're relocating to Nashville, Tennessee. And people, like, literally, you didn't even do research on restaurants and how COVID was spreading, and you're just like, all restaurants shut down. Like, why don't you come and have a conversation with me and say, guys, this is an issue we're having. Your business is going to be affected. We need to say, hey, let's transition outdoor eating. We're going to give you a grant. We're going to give you this to help you build something outside. You have 90 days to make that transition. Like, who are you to affect somebody's way of feeding their kid? Yeah. Like, that's that's the stuff that I'm pissed off, because you're hurting other people. Right? And you're making decisions for other people, and you're nobody to make decisions for people. So as I've gotten more involved in that and seen what happens to people and how many people are bullied, taken advantage of, lied to, manipulated, persuaded for votes, like, it's disgusting how people will pander to like a certain market. Like, do you think they're stupid? Do you think, why are you trying to manipulate this market? You don't care about the African American market. You don't care about the Hispanic market. You don't even come to see what's going on with it. You don't even know what you're doing. So like you got into a position of leadership for power instead of for like purpose, like instead of to actually make change. So, and if you study the history of politics, all the people that were in politics were all 100% volunteer.
Yeah, they were business
right?
owners, owned their own businesses. They made money elsewhere, not in politics.
Yeah, they were not career politicians.
Non-biased.
Now, do I need to understand that we need full-time now as the country's bigger? Yeah, but there should be term limits. There should be so many better systems to control the abuse of power. And so, you know, when you look at what happened in Ukraine, there was an uprising, I think it was 2013 or 2014, because the person in power at that time, they were abusing their power. Yeah. And so the people of Ukraine, they said, we're going to do a revolution. Mm-hmm. So there was a revolution. They kicked that person out of power.
He was pro-Russian. Yeah, the leader before.
Yeah. And so he wanted to side more with the Russian agreement versus the European Union agreement. And so they kicked him out of power, right? This guy, the whole story of, I'm an actor, I'm going to make a series on Netflix about how this actor becomes the president, then becomes the president?
That's true, yeah, it's crazy.
Dude, anything in the world is possible. This guy wanted it more than the other guy. And that's the powerful thing too about politics, about leadership, about finding a partner, a husband, a wife. Like, do you want it more than the other guy? And so now you look at this, again, abuse of power, and there's division. And this country's divided. And that's the problem, is when people are divided, you know? And so, you know, Putin, I said Putin, Putin, right? Kiev was originally, a long time ago, the capital of Russia. Yeah. You know, so why he's doing what he's doing, there's no actual, like, legitimate reason for it. And the people of Russia don't like it. The people of Ukraine don't like it. It's such a small group of people that like it. And people that are, this is the problem when you're in power for 20 plus years. You're so disconnected to the normal person. And now we have TikTok, now we have YouTube, and people are literally seeing homes be bombed. Yeah. Kids on the street.
Hospitals being bombed.
Yeah, dogs being blown up. Like, you're seeing it. And people are like, dude, why are you doing this anymore? So I think the social media aspect and the world aspect, he thought he was going to get a lot of love and backing. Yeah. But now that the world can see what's going on, he's being exposed.
Times have changed. I mean, you go back 1940s, you can do this, and like, what's happening in Poland?
And you control the narrative.
Yes.
Today you can't control it anymore.
You can't.
And so what's wrong, Patrick said this the other day on one of his interviews on Valuetainment. He says, do you think bad ideas get exposed? He says, yeah. I think a bad idea will always get exposed eventually. Yep. And I think that's what's happening right now. So it's very sad. And it's very sad in terms of the whole other conversation with NATO.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the way. Let's talk about entrepreneurship and how we can possibly save America, right? So you're a serial entrepreneur, man. You're a business owner. You've been in business for yourself 16 years. What role do entrepreneurs play in saving America? I know part of the company's our motto is saving America by free enterprise. So how does free enterprise truly save America today?
That's such a profound question, and we could spend hours on that. But the short answer is, when you're driving down a street and you're used to being a consumer, you see all these businesses as, oh, they are there to sell me something. And they're lucky to have me as a client. And you think it's a business, but you forget that every little one of those stores is owned by a person that chose to bet on themselves. Mm. Like, I drive mine out and I'm like, I used to not even pay attention to that because I wasn't aware of it. I was a consumer. I wasn't an entrepreneur. I wasn't creating, right? I was just working to get money to buy things. And when you become an entrepreneur, you start providing value, producing a product, producing a service, having to realize, how do I get better? How do I compete for market share? How do I make my product more attractive to people? How do we provide better customer service? And you have to start giving things first and creating and giving a job and creating a job and being responsible, because now all these people that work for you, right? Every single job that exists in America, I think the statistic is 90+% of jobs that exist in America are created by small business owners. So when we say saving America, we need to create more jobs, right? People need more jobs. Well, who creates more jobs?
Entrepreneurs.
Entrepreneurs create more jobs. We forget that. We think that the government creates more jobs, and it doesn't create more jobs.
They can try to.
Yeah.
They can make more jobs in a sense, but I think we forget the best way to create a job is through innovation, through technology, and through entrepreneurship.
Yeah, free market, competition.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
If we ran businesses the way the government does, we wouldn't be as effective. Free market, people being able to compete with each other drives innovation. So if today, I have a phone and I want to go buy the phone, I have so many choices of phones. And because everybody is selling something and trying to compete, I'm trying to sell my phone, you're trying to sell your phone, we now have to make it better for the people that are buying it. Right? So if you take away entrepreneurship and there's only one person making the phone, one person selling the phone, where does innovation come from? It doesn't happen. So now all of a sudden we control the price of that product. We control the market. You don't have a say anymore. So entrepreneurs existing actually give people that are consumers options to purchase, and it makes those products better. I don't care if it's medicine, a cell phone, a computer, a car, any kind of technology, a hospital. Like, I don't care what it is. Entrepreneurs are the people that are making the world better because they're having to be better to get that business. And that goes down to the whole law of economics, right? Why we do something. And it's... Imagine a grocery store. Imagine you wanted to make breakfast. You would have to go buy a chicken. You'd have to go buy a pig. You'd have to go grow a potato tree.
Not Donis. He wouldn't buy a pig.
Okay, he's vegan. He's vegan. Okay, you're gonna buy a fake pig. Okay, no, I'm just joking, right? But you'd have to go buy all that. How much would breakfast cost you? My God, the fact that we have a market where everybody can sell their product, now you can go get breakfast for $1. So when people start to understand that entrepreneurship is connected to the way that they feed their family, that entrepreneurship, like everything is entrepreneurship, but when you're not in that and you're taught, and this all depends on values, you're taught that, man, entrepreneurs are bad, entrepreneurs are greedy, entrepreneurs, all they care about money, rich people only care about money.
That's how I grew up.
The only people that say rich people care about money are poor people. Okay, and no offense, because if you were rich, you're one of the top givers at your church, yeah? Yeah. How can you give to a church that's going out there and feeding the homeless and helping moms and doing all these things without money? Oh, God bless you. I'm sorry, but God bless you doesn't give that person that doesn't have food that day. Nope. God blesses you by you blessing them, by you going to use your what you have, what you can do, right, to produce value for people. So it's so deep. Like look at who donates the most to charities. Feed the Children, every nonprofit. It's primarily funded by entrepreneurs. And those are donations that are given, So I'm a big believer in let people give. Don't force people to give. Don't control people. But entrepreneurship is everything. The best schools were built by entrepreneurs back in the day. Like, we've gotten so far where the world today is looking at entrepreneurship as such a negative thing, or capitalism is such a negative thing, when the only reason those people have a job is because we pay taxes to pay their bills. So while we're grateful, man, the entrepreneur is king and queen, and that's one of the things that's special about PHP and what we do, is that we value the people that are building this.
Absolutely. Last question, George. What's been your experience being coached and mentored by a guy like Patrick David? Valuetainment host, 3.3 million subscribers, the Vogue conferences, CEO, the fastest growing financial service company in the country. He's doing a lot of things. He's been mentoring you for the last, 15 years? Yep. What is that? Obviously, you're successful. You're doing well financially, but what is it like to have Patrick as a mentor? Patrick,
my relationship with Patrick in my years of becoming more disciplined were very difficult, because he had to deal with somebody. He didn't have to. He chose to. He chose to invest into somebody that was entitled. That had a big ego, that was lazy. And
this is all you were lazy, entitled.
Oh yeah. I didn't. Sometimes you don't even know that you're entitled. Like sometimes you don't. Like sometimes you're blind to your own things, right? We can see the issue with everybody else, but seeing our own issue is hard, right? You can't see yourself if you're in the picture frame, kind of deal. Yep. And so So me wanting to do things my way, me wanting to be independent, me having my own beliefs, I had to become humble, and I had to become coachable to that. And it's interesting how we have such a big ego, and we're maybe uncoachable, undisciplined. We want to make excuses. And then when you do have a coach, when you have somebody like that, every time they try to give you correction, your relationship to correction will tell a lot about what season of your life that you're in. So at first I'm like, man, you're not my boss, right? You're not, and the whole 5 levels of you're an employee, then you're, an independent contractor, leave me alone, then you're just a professional salesperson, then business owner, then you finally become coachable. And I had to surrender to that coaching, put my ego aside. And it all typically stems from insecurity. There's certain insecurities. You want to feel smart enough or good enough or that you're right. But sometimes you have to accept that, man, I don't know everything and I need help. And every time I succeeded, every time that I had a good relationship with Patrick, I was winning. Every time I was close to Patrick, I was winning. Every time I was humble, I was winning. And so I eventually realized, like, man, this person is not against you. And I was raised a certain way, like, don't trust anybody. Nobody's your friend. Nobody's this. You have to think, right? But sometimes we're so taught to be individuals that we don't know how to be mentored. We have to, like, surrender to being mentored by somebody. If they care about you, they really want to see, and you really believe that, man, you got to become coachable to that person. And once I did, we started growing and getting results. But every time that we won, he always raised the bar. Every single time. I remember when the first time we made $100,000 in a month. I said, Pat, man, we just made $100,000 a month. And I'm thinking he's gonna be like, man, I'm so proud. He's like, George, congratulations. Great freaking job, man. Proud of you. I'm sure your parents are proud of you. Listen, you should be making $100,000 a week. And if you don't make $100,000 a week, it was always about the money for you. It wasn't about purpose. I'm like, what the, can it ever be enough, Pat? And then yesterday, we're at his $25 million house in Fort Lauderdale. We're on the $1 million yacht, and he's showing us all these homes. When you find a person like that, man, it's so special because they don't look at you as a paycheck. They don't look at you as override. All they do is they want to play a role in your life to see you truly become the best version of yourself. Oh my God, if somebody can find a mentor, if people find a mentor like Patrick or even the associates that are here today through PHP, if you can rise up to get that level of mentorship, it's so special, and people are out there like that. You just got to find them. So very interesting relationship. Person I'm the most, outside of my mom and my dad and God, person I'm most grateful for in my life is Patrick. He's changed my life, and PHP's changed our lives. About to have a baby. We're traveling. We're about to buy our dream home. Parents are retired. We're traveling the world. The Ferrari, the things, all the homes, the vacations, everything I ever wanted, the life insurance industry gave me through Patrick, through PHP, and people just got to find the right opportunity, the right industry, the right company, the right mentorship, and then they got to become the right person. So this industry's changed my life, and I would never be where I'm at today. Never, not even close, without Patrick.
Absolutely. Wow, George. Wow, George. Give him some love. Give him some love. George, where can we find you, man? Are you on social media, Facebook, TikTok? I'm sure you're doing those dances.
I actually did the Macarena the other day. No. Instagram is probably the best place. I am, and then my first name is Jorge, last name Pelayo. I am Jorge Pelayo. It's probably the platform we use the most. We're on everything, but that's the platform we use the most to engage.
Absolutely, Jorge. Well, thank you for coming out today, man. Appreciate it, brother.
You.
Absolutely,
thank
guys.
Thank
absolutely.
You,
absolutely.